Hey there, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of At the Elephants. Excited to get this episode in your inbox this week. It is with a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Stephen Kopp. He is a graduate of the drama directing program 2013, same as myself and Mr. Wiley Gorn and Mr. Daniel Kelly. Wiley Gorn's already out. Daniel Kelly's still to come, I believe, on Thanksgiving. We're doing 2 episodes a week of At the Elephants. And it's going great for everybody who's been tuning in and hanging on and checking out the new show, the new season. Much appreciated. It is felt very sincerely by yours truly. I've been working on doing this show for like 8 years on and off, and it is one of my favorite things to do, so I appreciate you giving it your time and energy. Great episode today. Stephen is I'm struggling to find the words only because, which if you listen to me is unusual, because Stephen is so important to me and such a big part of my life. Not everyone I talk to on the show is a really close best friend of mine, but Stephen definitely is. And he and I haven't had a chance to connect that much in the last few years. So this was a great catch-up session. And if you want to know what's been going on with Stephen, if you know Stephen and maybe haven't seen him in a while, this is a great episode for you. We're going to talk about his getting into like Twitch streaming and playing video games online and stuff like that. You can check him out. I believe it's at Kopp, but the O in Kopp are zeros. So K0PP, K0PP. I think that's right. He's that on most things. We're going to talk about sobriety. We're going to talk about that classic story of getting out of school and going where you think you're supposed to go and doing what you think you're supposed to be doing and how it goes from there. Very unpredictable. And then, of course, as for many of us, the pandemic had a big effect on what he was doing and how he was looking at things. And so we're going to get into that. Without further ado, we will have Shayna Penn on Thursday, and also coming out soon. I was just looking at my list, but we've got Joe Flanders, we've got Andrew Jernigan, we've got Ellie Barone, we've got Caitlin Allen, we've got a lot of great people coming up. Kyle Siegel just popped into my brain. So many great episodes of At the Elephants coming up soon. Available on all platforms, doing the YouTube, the Apple, the Spotify. So if you want to watch this interview, it is available on YouTube. But otherwise, listen to it where you listen to stuff. All right, that's it. Thank you and love you and bye-bye. Or, well, not goodbye, but here's Stephen. It's such a good microphone when you get up and walk around. It is fucking silent. It's like your noise reduction is so good.
Thank you. Let's get some lighting. That's better.
Yeah.
Get that other more industrial ring light. There we go.
Get your autofocus rocking.
Yeah. What's funny is that because I was streaming off the Mac Pro that my work gave me. And eventually it just was like, I can't do this anymore. Why are you doing this to me?
Right.
And so I said, fuck it, I've got to buy a PC. And as soon as I bought the PC, it's the same camera and the same microphone, but just because the processing power is better, everyone was like, oh my God, or what happened? Right? I was like, no.
Upgrade time, baby.
Upgrade time.
I just did the same thing, except I just bought another Mac.
Oh, smart.
I bought a Mac Mini. It's the one that's like $700, but it doesn't come with a screen or anything. You have to buy everything separate. It's like their desktop now that doesn't come built into a whatever. It's dope though. Been doing all my editing on it. It's very fast.
Yeah, well, that's the irony. I do all my editing on Final Cut Pro, but I stream on a PC. So I'm back to that age-old issue of moving files around and massive Google Drive storages and blah, blah, blah.
It's way easier than it used to be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like it used to be impossible to try to do that and play that game unless you could like download the other operating system on your separate thing. and just like
Oh
kind of
yeah,
switch back and forth.
yeah. Do that thing where people split the whatever. I was like, that's too technical for me, Hanny. I can't
Right.
do that.
You're telling me every time I have to turn the computer off and then turn it back on and hold a button and then make
uh,
it go into, no, you lost
no,
me.
no, sorry.
Somehow two different machines and TVs is easier.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine.
So how are you
Uh,
doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's we are recording this on my birthday weekend, so
Right. Happy birthday, bro. It was just like,
thank
was it
you.
yesterday?
No, it's Monday, but I just like a basic white person. I just was like,
Yeah,
weekend.
you get several days. Well, if it's
Yeah,
on Monday of a 3-day holiday weekend, I mean, we'll give it to you. Come on.
thank
Come on
you.
now.
It's always Labor Day, so I think my mom plotted that when she gave birth. She was like, he's gonna have a 3-day weekend every birthday.
And so few people get to go into labor on Labor Day. So good for your mom.
Yes.
That's rare.
Cheers, mom.
You got it. Ayo.
Hey.
So you have all this fancy gear because you've been making content, doing streaming and video game stuff. And talk to me, baby.
Yeah.
We didn't get to talk because you
I
came to the wedding, but we didn't get to talk about this because that's what it's
I
like
know.
when you
Well,
get married. You talk to no
yeah,
one at all.
yeah, I know. You were way too busy getting married for this to matter. Which also BT Dubs, amazing wedding. That was super fun. I had a
Did you have a good
blast.
time?
I had a blast. Like literally, that was so one, that was like my first big wedding as like a sober individual. And
Mm,
I really leaned into the like, okay, I'm just here to like make sure people don't get fucked up. Like like being the designated DD the whole time. I was like, actually, I'm here for this. Like this sort of being of service to my friends in this way is really fulfilling. And so, and like I think it was a man. Well, who was it? It was Rainy when I showed up at the house that everybody was staying at. All
by like
your
half my party moved out of the
have your
bachelor house and then into an
yeah.
Airbnb because they're all
I
communal like that.
I got to that Airbnb and everybody went off to go like take care of tasks, and I was like, this fucking kitchen is a mess. Just like wiped everything down, organized everything, and people came back and they're like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "You're welcome."
And we
But
didn't
I had
make
a
it
wonderful
easy
month.
on you. We did have two of your former things that you like to do that you don't do anymore.
It's
Because not
true. It's
not everyone is like. Not only are you tempted with the bar, but we have another bar that has weed and
I yeah yeah. Well, that's the irony of like of being 2 years. So August 17th is my sober date. So I'm now 2 years sober, and like that stuff. It's funny how the further away from it you get, the less tempting it is, because it's just I'm at a point where it's like this is not a part of my life that I need to engage in. And
right.
also I now I find it adorable when people are like, oh my god, is it okay if I'm having a glass of wine right now? I'm like, listen, you're totally fine. like
Right.
like my don't let my choices affect you, because like controlling you and your choices is like not my job, right? So you do
How
you,
long did
boo.
that take, or was that always a part of your sobriety? Just like not, I mean, you have your own
Oh,
issues maybe, but I mean, like to have a resentment for others, was that ever a thing? Because I could totally understand if it would be.
I think it was when I went. So I did about a 9 month withdrawal. Most people suggest 90 days, which is 3 months, but I just kind of said, you know what, we're gonna go until I feel like I need to re-engage the world in a healthy way. And so it's about
And full
9 months.
disclosure, I should say that I've not talked to you about any of this. We really weren't
No,
like in
yeah,
much communication during the time.
it's true. So yeah, and it's also part of that withdrawal period. That 9 months was such a chosen cloistered
Mm,
existence, right? Like I called it monastic at the time, where like I knew that what I was going through was very difficult, and that I needed to be very careful about where I put myself and who I put myself around. And so it was like, I'm going to surround myself with the immediate New York people that I need in order to stay safe and protected and sober, and my family. Um, and that doesn't change, for instance, the friends that are like not in New York that I still feel very close with, like yourself. It just means that like right now it has to be as first circle as possible to
Yeah,
survive.
that makes sense to me.
And it was very, very difficult because rewiring your brain is a subtle pain. It's not an easy thing to do. But there wasn't really ever resentment. It was just more of like protection, right? Like I
Right.
just need to protect myself and where I go and what I do and who I'm around. And then eventually, after like 9 months, because I was also off social media for 9 months, which is extremely ironic for the fact that I'm now in content creation and I'm living in social media. But I had to take a step away from it for 9 months to even be able to re-engage it and understand, how do I re-engage this in a way that is sober and safe for me, because I recognize my brain is very powerful at latching on to obsessive things like social media that are also basically dopamine IV drips at this point.
Yeah, for
So it's
sure.
like, you know,
Little
it's
slot
like my brain's
machine.
really good at this. Yeah, little slot machine. But it's like my brain's great at this, but also I need to, give myself some defining boundaries on it.
Do you mind if I rewind a little bit, just because
Yeah.
we haven't really talked about this, and kind of maybe go to the root of when you thought this became a real issue and how you ended up sober, if you're comfortable talking about that? Only
Yeah.
because when we knew each other more closely, which was almost 10 years ago, it
Mhm.
was it didn't seem to me like you had an issue at that time with overindulgence or taking it too far. I mean, we all smoke and drank. We were in fucking college,
Right.
but
Right.
it never felt, I mean, and there were people in our lives that we were like, whoa, they need to maybe just slow down a little bit. And you
Yeah, like
never
the
really, at least when I was with you, it didn't feel as though you were dealing with that. But was that an issue then?
I think all things in context and retrospect. Yes, right. I think
Okay.
what a lot of people, so I had a feeling we'd talk about it. So I went through a little
You
mental
kind
list
of
in my
brought it up, and I'm very
I did. No,
interested in it.
I was
So,
like, well, it's a big part of the content creation journey. So you kind
right.
of they have to be a little bit attached, right?
It's like an act one
Um,
situation.
yeah. So I, you know, right before the pandemic, my life was producing theater, writing and producing a musical. I was working a 9 to 5 at a startup company that I'm still working at. And I was in a committed 5 year relationship. We were living together, and I was, executing a podcast that this company had made for me. There was
I
so
remember
much,
that.
right?
It was like the working podcast or something. What was it called?
Yeah, it's the workplace podcast where I was
Workplace. Right, right,
interviewing.
right.
Yeah, I was interviewing people in the operations field to talk about, like, how do you become an operations professional, and it was great. It was really cool. And I had all this stuff going for me, and then the pandemic hit, and I think like my entire life got pulled upside down because there's no theater. Thankfully, my job kept me. I was very grateful for that. Um, and then the podcast said, "Hey, we're not going to keep making more episodes." And I said, "Well, that's kind of weird because this is actually a prime time to make podcasting episodes in the pandemic because interviewing people is easy."
Right.
But sure. Um,
Yeah,
and
weird
then
time to cancel that.
yeah, that's what I thought too. But whatever. And then my relationship of five and a half years ended in May of 2020, and that is where
Oof.
this sort of addiction, um, uh, box started to open up because I had navigated addictive behavior in a few times in the relationship. Right, I'll keep everything anonymous and like vague just to protect myself and
Sure.
protect the individuals involved, but
Yeah, of course, dude.
it is called anonymous for a reason. So, but my partner and I at the time, or my boyfriend at the time, whatever, had navigated a few moments of addictive behavior, and we had worked through it. And it kind of all came to a head where I basically spent the year before just living a double life. I would go to work and I would engage in behavior that was not who the person I was when I was with my partner. And then when I was with him at home, it was like, okay, well, this is a version of me. And then when you're not here, whether that's at work or if he was working, he waited tables in the evening. So he would work like 5 to 2 a.m. I would be a completely different person. And that sort of compartmentalized double life fell apart when he figured it all out, because I continued to try and engage in addictive behavior in the pandemic when we were locked in an apartment together. And he said, I can't really do this anymore. Right. And that was the moment where I was like, I kind of saw the wreckage of my life and was standing in the middle of it holding a detonator button. And I went, what the fuck did I just do? You know? And I lost friends. I lost, we moved out of that apartment. My parents were shattered. So many people were affected. My friends, so many people were affected by the concussive blast and the collateral damage of the choices that I had made. And that sort of double life is the thing where I was like, oh, this isn't sustainable. And what that kind of manifests itself as is that, like, I was a secret drinker. There's a reason why you, Rob, and my friends never knew this or never perceived it to be a problem that I had. And that's because I would drink and smoke weed alone and no one knew. And then I would also control the information that people would perceive. So, for instance, if my boyfriend was working, I would buy a 6-pack of beer and I would drink that entire 6-pack in a night and smoke a bowl or two. And then I would take the bottles of beer and I would take them outside to the trash out into the building so that he never knew that those bottles ever existed. And that sort of, when I finally got a sponsor in 12-step, my sponsor was like, your dad was an alcoholic. He drank himself to death. There's addiction on your mom's side too. You may not identify as an alcoholic right now in this moment, because drinking a 6-pack of beer is not out of the normal for most human beings, or a bottle of wine or whatever you want to call it, right? That's a fine thing for adults to do. But the way that you're controlling the information and who knows what and when and where and why, that is addiction. And that is very dangerous. And I said, you're right. You are right. And my therapist at the time, I got a therapist when the relationship ended. She said, you have to do something. If you don't, you have an opportunity right now to change everything about your life, or not. Or not. You can continue doing exactly what you want to do. Nobody's going to stop you. I'm not going to stop you. Do whatever the fuck you want. But you are given a choice here. And she really pushed me to join 12-step and to just sit in the room, listen. And she's like, if you identify and relate with what these people are saying, start there. Right. And I was like, yeah, I do. When I look back, even at my time in college, even at my time in grad school, undergrad, like, I would, prime example, the house that I lived in with Leighton and Wiley in that summer, right before Leighton and Wiley even moved in, when I had that whole house to myself, I drank every night. Every night. Even if I told myself I don't want to drink tonight, I would still drink. And there's a lot to unpack inside of that, of self-worth, of, am I comfortable being alone? Clearly I'm not, because I fill that alone time with substances. And when I was in my withdrawal period, all of those memories started to come back. All of those things started to be like, oh shit, that happened. Oh fuck, I did that. Oh my God, that. Holy shit, I totally, and when it all starts to sort of blossom, as my memory cleared and my brain rewired, I started to realize that the dominoes were laid long before my relationship ended, and that choices and patterns of behavior had set me up to this moment. The beauty of all of that is through that pain and that destruction, is a version of myself that I truly feel like is me, Stephen, as an honest person existing in a reality that I know to be true, that I can reach out and interact with, that doesn't feel so far detached from myself, that I am walking through it. What's the what's the Fight Club quote? Like a copy of a copy of a copy, right? Um, and it also spawned this content creation, which I never thought I would ever be doing. So, um, but yeah, that's there's a reason why people never thought that I had a problem. That's because I made sure they didn't know about it. Oh, you're mute. I can't hear you. No. Is it me?
I think it's you.
Ah, oh, it's me. Now I got you.
Okay. Yeah, I felt bad because at one point I kind of started talking over you and you kept going and I was like,
Oh,
oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
no, it was it was a good reminder of me to shut up and let people tell their stories, which I'm terrible about on this show. If people know from watching. And I had so many thoughts, obviously, as you were saying all of that. The first thing I said when you finished was you did a very good job of hiding it because it wasn't something that, like I said at the beginning, it wasn't something that I ever suspected. And we got high all the time. Like all we did was like smoke weed and then we would go to parties and of course we would drink. But we all did. It felt like you were living at the same level as us. And even if you weren't like going crazy, I totally recognize what you say about what your sponsor said. Like that really resonates with me. There's a difference between here's here I'll yeah, I mean I'm not going to reiterate it. The idea that you were hiding it was the problem. But what I was asked once in a relationship as it was ending, we went to couples therapy together, and the issue came up of talking about whether or not I had an addiction to sex or an addiction to pornography. And we and I was like, well, let's see, if I had it my way, I would definitely do both of those every day. And I don't want to stop doing that. So
So you told me.
does that make me an addict? And I really was asking these questions and they started bringing up a bunch of things that I was like mid-20s, a bunch of things that I had never considered before as elements of addiction. And my wife is in grad school for social work right now. So we talk about this stuff fucking constantly now, which is fascinating to me. I don't have a problem with it. But when I was having that experience, she was like, well, let me ask you a few questions about your relationship to these two things. And we kind of lumped them together. And we're like, they're both in the same realm for sure. But okay, when you feel pain, do you feel those things are salvations for you out of that pain? And do they ever feel like they are your only salvations out of that pain? Like, do you feel like, oh my God, I'm hurting so bad. I need sex or I need pornography and I need it right now? And I was like, no, I don't. I was like, in fact, if I'm really upset, I'm not in the mood for that. It just doesn't activate for me. So no. And she was like, okay. And then she was like, do you find that other than in this relationship, which very well may have its other issues at play, do you find that those two things, how does she put it, are keeping you from functioning in your life the way you would like to? And I was like, other than this relationship, no, it's fine. Like I just, I'm not about to get kicked out of school or lose my job or, I'm not broke or whatever problem you might have. I don't have any of those problems, though I have some of them. They're not because of that at all. And she was like, well, then it doesn't sound like you're addicted to sex or pornography. It sounds like you just enjoy sex and pornography. And I was like, it really did, dude. It blew my mind because I was like, no, I thought if you have it every day and you want it every day and you can't imagine a life without it, that's what addiction is. And she was like, and these other things. And if these other things aren't an element and it's not fucking your life up and you're just doing it every day, then you just like it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
one,
And that's been my continued experience with that.
I think your wife is spot on, and I think we should have. I should have a lot more conversations with her now that I've actually met her from your wedding, because she's very right. Your relationship to the task or activity or the substance is the key part of it, and whether or not it's a compulsion, right? There's two words. The AA Big Book is sitting on my bedside table right over there. There's two words that the AA Big Book goes back to multiple times, and the Big Book is what, you can read the AA book and translate it to any addiction, right? Just change the word alcohol for whatever. But it's one, compulsion, and two, allergy. I have an allergy to a thing, which means that if I put that thing in my body or engage in that activity, does it fundamentally change my person? Do I immediately become a different version of myself in a way that isn't like what a mind altering substance like drugs or alcohol would be for any other person, right? And that's always the thing that I go back to, is that like, now that I've been away from it for 2 years, I know that if I have a sip of beer, I'll have the whole six pack. I can't not. It's not a choice anymore. It just happens. So I just don't, right? And the sex and love part of it that you explained too, like in the withdrawal period, withdrawal from pornography and masturbation was a part of it too, because that's all wrapped up in how your brain processes dopamine. So it's, my sponsor was like, we're going to take everything off the table because it's going to be best to just start there. And which is why I quantified it as a monastic existence, because it's like, no pornography, masturbation, drugs, or alcohol.
Like monastic, that means like monk-like, right?
Monk-like, yes, exactly. But in that time, you make space for discovering what you do like to do that isn't, there's a bunch of different words for it, bottom line, or like there's a bottom pillar, a bunch of different people quantify it different ways, right? But it's the behaviors that I don't want to engage in. And then you cultivate space for new behavior to unfold as you learn about yourself in the withdrawal period. So for me, I was grateful enough to have moved into this apartment when I started my withdrawal period, which was huge because it allowed me to nest, which was a physical activity. And a physical activity is huge in withdrawal, to really get, some people go to the gym, they take up swimming, they take up a sport. There's so many different versions of like physical activity that people take up in withdrawal. And for me, it was unpacking boxes, hanging pictures. I painted furniture. I've never, like, when did I want to paint furniture? But now here I am painting all this stuff. And that's
nesting. That's like making your home the way you want it to be.
Right. Exactly. I didn't know that term until a friend of mine was like, oh my God, you're nesting. I was like, what does that mean?
I moved so much growing up that I heard it all the time, like from therapists and stuff, because I was also in therapy when I was young. And so they would be, that came up for sure. I'm really glad that you had that opportunity, because that's really helpful. I think that's one of the few things that I look back on about growing up and moving. Like I said, something like 20 something bedrooms by the time I graduated high school. And because we moved a lot, and then my parents split, and then they moved a lot. And so it's like every other few months, a parent was in a different place, and they would each do it, and different states and all that. But I always hated packing, but I loved moving in.
Yeah.
I loved like getting getting the boxes, being like, you know what? I never liked that fucking poster over my bed anyway. That poster's going over here, or that poster's going in the fucking trash because I'm not 8 anymore. Like whatever. Like, and that's like, I didn't have because my room was like I'm trying to think of something that's like a comparison, like almost like the way MySpace used to let you change the wallpaper and the song that plays.
Yeah.
My room was always like that. It was like an immediate reflection of whatever I was into, because I'd only been living there for like 6 months. So like I would go to other kids' like bedrooms that I would become friends with when I moved, and they'd have like fucking Power Rangers up in like, but right next to like My Chemical Romance. And you're like, this is like a whole journey. Like I can look around and I see photos when you're 4, photos when you're 14. And I was like, I don't have any of that shit. Every room I'm in is like this age right now.
Yeah.
But it's so,
This
it gives you so
this
much
capture in
depth.
time, you know?
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
snapshot of what you're into and shit. And I love that you had that in that moment because it forces you to go, what am I into? What do I like? What are my aesthetic
Yeah.
choices? And what brings me joy? Like what do I want to look at every fucking day? And I don't think people think about that enough. They said it and then they forget it, and then they don't realize they're living in a red room for like 5 years. Like, I'm fucking angry.
Who you? What? No, what? Uh um yeah, my therapist told me when I was moving into the apartment, she was like, Steven, I don't want you to consult anybody about the way that you decorate the apartment. I was like, what do you
Smart.
mean? And she's like, you're really guilty of asking other people for their thought on things, which has its uses. But for now, in this moment, don't ask anybody. Don't ask your mom. Don't ask your friends. Just decorate it how you want to decorate it.
That sounds like
And I was
Gerald.
like, yeah, I know,
It's
right?
like, just don't ask, just do it, and
Just do
it'll be
it.
good.
You got your shoes. Um, I'll never forget that. I can't let go of the shoes moment. I'll be walking around New York City and be like, shoes. Don't forget them. You
Do
need
you
your
want to
shoes.
tell everyone what you're talking about?
Yeah. So it's I don't. It's like, how do I simplify it enough? We were in rehearsal
It
for,
was
what was
Major
the show?
Barbara, right?
It was Major Barbara. And we were all sitting around, the whole class was sitting around this big circular set of tables. And we had just done a
Like
run, I
30
believe.
people.
30 people. We had just done a run. And Gerald, God love him, was had there to watch the run and give notes. And Mary
This is
Irwin
after he
sitting.
had his stroke. And because for
Yes.
our entire time in the program, he had like serious aphasia, and it was all about having Robert or Ashley on his shoulder to kind of help translate. We got
Yeah.
pretty
So
good at it after 2 years of kind
we
of digging
did. Yeah.
through what he was
Putting
trying to say.
the pieces together of
But
the cons of thought, you know?
he was a dull knife at this point that used
Yeah.
to be quite sharp. So if anyone listening is like, where is this
What?
going? Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, but he's giving notes about the run, and Mary Irwin, our Shakespeare voice and speech teacher, is sitting there, and the note was just, don't forget your shoes on the day. You're gonna need shoes, so they're very important. And so yeah, shoes. And even like there's this, I mean, there were collective looks across the table, but even Mary Irwin was like, so what Gerald's trying to, like, even she's trying to catch it and like roll it back, you know, because all of us are like, what?
He might be
But
done.
he might
He might be done with this, and we love him so much, and everyone even knows this is the last thing. But if you weren't sure, if you were
Yeah.
like, maybe he could do another year, it was moments like that, which of course I only point out because in contrast, like 5 minutes later, he would say some like poignant, perfect
some
thing
really, yeah,
that just like changed, and you're like, fuck, that's what this whole play's about. And so that came packaged with those, but it was in that time when it was also,
well,
make sure you wear fucking shoes when you do the play because your character would have shoes. And so if you come out barefoot in this scene as a soldier,
yeah,
no one's gonna know what the fuck you're talking about because they're gonna be staring at your feet the whole time. Not an issue anyone brought up, and not a concern that anyone had. But I just want to address it. I'm gonna nip it in the bud.
But now, like, my meme culture brain now pairs that Gerald's voice and that moment to the shoes. Oh my God, shoes. And now I just hear that meme in Gerald's voice, and the two of them combined together.
I wish we had recorded him so we could lay it over that tune that's in that song. Yeah. Shoes. Don't forget shoes. Yeah, that would be fun. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you right there while you're
No, that was great. Spit takes. But out of all of that, right? One of the positive behavior things that I discovered was that, like, I like to play video games already. I like to play Magic the Gathering with my friends. I like to play D&D. These are community and communal things that I enjoy doing, except I play video games mostly by myself or maybe sometimes with friends online. But
I'm a solo video gamer too.
I've known you have been, and you very much were like, I'm gonna do the one player storyline. You get in
I played
there.
GTA Online now, and I've been playing it for like whatever 7, 8 years it's been out. But I only play it in invite only sessions where I'm the only one in the whole city, and I get to play this
Free reign.
fantasy, yeah, where I'm just like Los Angeles is mine. It is truly the greatest escape.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, solo's the way to
King,
go, man.
King of LA.
Yeah, who
Um,
wants to deal with a bunch of fucking noobs?
it reminds me of that movie Free Guy. Just anytime people talk about like giant
Great
online,
movie.
great movie. I was like, wow, this is so good. The representation of those massive online worlds were just like shit is going wrong everywhere.
Just the constant missiles and
Yeah,
explosions and yeah,
helicopters. It's just like
that
wow.
and that I would say of all the video games, because I play every now and then. I'll play a game for like a couple hours. I usually bail and I'm like, this was fun, and then I go back to doing the like 2 games I like.
Mhm.
But that of all the games, Free Guy is as close to GTA Online or like a Fortnite that you could get. It's so on
Yes,
the nose, but
absolutely.
I'm I'm not mad about it as long as there's no other people. Because like real life, it fucking ruins everything when other people start getting around.
I hate people.
I just I just don't believe in sitting in traffic I'm not allowed to destroy with a minigun.
Yeah, for sure. That
That's the
makes
only
total
traffic
sense.
I can handle.
He lives in LA. What? 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 Uh, but I like, so I like that was a part of it. And a very close friend of mine, Chia Marita, who you know,
Sure.
who Chia and I had a brunch. This was around my birthday, 2020, September 2020. And she was like, I was talking to her about like, I don't know what to do creatively. I have been out of a creative mindset from basically April through September of 2020. And I'm working and then I'm playing video games and I'm playing Magic and that's my life right now. And she was like, "Well, Stephen, you you keep opening up a toolbox and all the tools inside are useless, right? They're from an old industry. You don't know what to do with them. They make you sad when you look at them because they're reminding you of a time that doesn't exist anymore, right?" And she's like, "So you should take all the tools out of the toolbox and keep the ones that are good and that will serve you. Throw the rest of them out. And the hard part is you're going to have to put new tools in the box, which means learning new things, and learning new things takes time." And I was like, damn, like she's right, like she's
Theater people and
absolute.
their poetic metaphors, man.
Right, like, and
It's all we
so
did for 4 years.
it's true. It's true. It was metaphorical concepts. So I went home and you know me, I like my brain likes to like throw a bunch of stuff on a wall or a giant piece of paper. It's kind of visually how my artistic
Big
process
time. We're
works.
going to talk
Is
about
that
that too. That's one of my
great.
favorite things about you.
There's a whiteboard wall right here. Actually, this entire wall of my bedroom is a whiteboard wall. So,
Of course it
but
is.
of course it is. He works
If
at a
it,
startup company.
it
The
guys,
whiteboard walls.
at his old house it was chalk. So he's really
It was.
upgraded and moved
We've
into the new
upgraded.
century.
So much easier to
The next
clean. Oh my
one's a
god.
laser wall.
It's just the Tony Stark like AR
Yep.
like moving the panels around and shit.
It's going to be
Um,
Jarvis style, baby.
you know it. So but I threw a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper. I was like, what's working, what doesn't work? And the stuff that I wanted to do was like, I like branding. I like the podcasting part because I got to create stuff. Any moment where I got to create was a big pivotal moment. And but now I don't have the physical space of the theater, and I don't have the accessibility of multiple people and teams and actors and designers. So I was also watching Twitch at the time, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know subscriptions, channel points, bits. I didn't know what any of this terminology meant. I just watched it
Yeah.
because people were doing cool stuff about it.
I'm like you were then. I don't know what you just said.
Yeah, which I'm happy to explain if we need to. But the person, there's two people that got me kind of into Twitch. One, Crank Gameplays, or Ethan Nestor, who was a YouTuber who pivoted over to Twitch. Still does YouTube and Twitch. I was like, I love this guy. I love his energy. He's got that like boy next door, but then it can also be kind of so raunchy, sassy at
Cute.
times. Um, and then this guy named Wasabi, who is no longer streaming, I believe, but Wasabi got extremely famous. There were articles written about what he was doing. He was doing Animal Crossing Drag Race in the pandemic. And he basically put out a theme for the week. He farmed millions of bells. People would make costumes and they would fly to his island, and he built a runway and he built lights and he built all this stuff, and he would do fucking Drag Race with Animal Crossing, and it just blew up. And I was like, what a crazy idea that people are taking video games and turning them into creative platforms. So I said, okay, well, what if I learned what Twitch is? What if I learned how do you do it? I had no idea how people even how do you get the game from the Switch onto the computer screen? I don't know. And it was all
Do you have a
foreign.
name for that character that
No,
that struggles to put things together?
Who is that? But I do have the there's a one of the things on my channel is called fun facts that people can redeem. And when they redeem it, it just gives me a random fun fact. And so what I do is I put on these glasses, and I go, fun fact, everybody. Did you know that the fastest recorded raindrop in history is 8 miles per hour? That's pretty cool.
Man,
you know,
what a life, right?
you could just be stupid on camera.
I love this.
So
I can find this
there
on
are
Twitch.
It's on Twitch. There's a lot of like the channel gets a lot of care. Like it's either something that I'm doing, or for instance, I don't. Let me, there's a Tom Holland pillow on my
I see
bed
him.
there.
Yeah.
Tom has become a recurring character in the stream, and on my YouTube videos where I'll talk to him, and then we'll kind of have a little back and forth, and chat. We'll talk to him and check in with Tom and see how he's doing.
I'm a big fan.
So, but I learned what an OBS is, which is a broadcasting software, which is how you get the game onto Twitch.
Right.
I learned what all that subscriptions and follows people can, if you get to the point where you can monetize your Twitch channel, which you have to meet a certain number of requirements, people can literally pay like there are so many other subscription services out there, but like they can pay you $5 a month because they like your content and get access to certain things that other people don't have access to. And I was like,
what do you give them, Steven?
There's a lot of different emotes or emoticons or emojis, whatever you want to call them, that I've had designers make that are like on brand for the stream. So if you sub at different tiers, $5, $10, or $15, I believe, or $20, you get access to different types of these emojis, which you can then use all across Twitch, which is a version of its own branding and marketing.
That's an NFT, right?
Yeah, it's basically
it's like a
like
digital
a tiny
asset that they're just buying the ability to like thumbs sideways or whatever the fuck that you do.
Yeah,
got it.
Exactly.
That's fucking genius. Anyone who's out there selling almost nothing, I'm impressed.
is doing great.
But it has value, or you wouldn't be able to sell it.
Right, exactly. And it's also, there's a big controversy right now in the Twitch community about using other streamers' emojis in other channels. And is that a form of advertising or not?
Ooh.
And some people are for it, some people are against it. And I'm a little like sassy about it because I work in marketing, I work in social media, and I'm like, y'all, have we checked the guidelines for why Twitch made this a thing? Because it literally in the Twitch guidelines says these are a way for you to brand and market yourself in other people's channels. So it is an ad. And I was like, it is an ad. We can't deny that it's not an ad.
And why wouldn't it be if you create something original and visual, and then other people are reposting that somewhere else? How is that? Yeah. I mean, that's brand building. That's what it is.
Exactly. So my stance on that argument, like, is y'all, this is an ad. This is branding and marketing.
That's why I don't send thumbs up emojis. I have my own that's just a fleshlight pointing up. or down.
or down. Yeah. Well, it
Yeah,
depends on your mood, really.
exactly. Well, and if I agree or disagree.
Yeah. What's the flashlight that's going around with the the circumcised, uncircumcised light? Have you seen this?
What?
Yes. It's
I
a
can
it's a
tell you one
lamp.
thing. I'm only interested in the circumcised light.
It's a lamp. Here, I'll demonstrate. This is I can't believe we're recording this. It's a lamp that sits on your wall like this. And it's like a thing that
A
rolls
little
up over the
sleeve,
bulb. Yeah. And then you can pull the sleeve down and the bulb
little
turns on.
turtleneck.
Uh-huh. And then you can turtleneck back up and the light turns off. And people are like, that's a penis. Like
If
that's a
if the light's been on for too long and it's hot, does it make it almost impossible to roll it up?
it just melts to the side of it. Yeah.
You're like, I don't think. I mean, it's just really, really
It's been
on.
it's been 4 hours. Should we call a
It's
repairman?
well, or your doctor, they say.
Or your doctor? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the only lamp that you call a doctor for if it's broken. That and those from the Georgia O'Keeffe collection.
Oh, yes.
Had to balance it out.
Thank you. Um so I taught myself in OBS. I learned how to do Twitch. I went to the Magic the Gathering group. We play every Saturday anyway. I was like, can I just press record, like press go live and see if anybody shows up? We're gonna do this anyway. And they were like, yeah, sure. And people showed up. So I streamed for all of I took October to learn all of this stuff. And then I started streaming in November. And November to like December, people started to show up. And I had hit almost all of the requirements to do to get the platform monetized, except for I was missing like 12 followers. You have to hit 50 followers. I think I was missing like 12 followers. So my producer brain kicked in and I was like, "Ooh, I need to do a collab. I need to like get another channel to collab with me so that we can get traction and audience, right?"
Totally.
So I reached out to this YouTube channel that I had been friends with named Elder Drunken Highlander. Josh and Austin and Kevin, they're great guys. I was like, hey, can we have your guys come on our channel and we'll do a big collab? It'll be like 6 hours and the goal will be to get the rest of the follower count. And they're like, yeah. So we did it. I got the channel monetized, which meant I was able to start actually getting a paycheck. If I think Twitch is like, if you hit $100 a month from subscriptions, cash donated, all that stuff, all of it, right? You get a check, right? So I was like, well, now this is a thing. This isn't just me playing Magic on Saturdays. Like now there's a chance for me to actually start making something out of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, all right, let's get it. Let's get a thing so I can stream the Switch. And I started playing Switch games. And then I started to kind of build a community. I know that's like I love streamer talk because it's like, and then I built a community and my community is so supportive. And it's like, well, yeah, girl, we built a community around it.
Yeah, that's good.
And people started to show up to play Pokemon Unite. People were playing Magic the Gathering. People were playing Ultimate Chicken Horse together. So I built a Discord to keep everybody in the same sort of like digital space. And then I got my first paycheck and I was like, I just made money from playing video games. What?
Why did I go to college?
Why did I go? What is like what in the world? But the thing is about that is that like it's all so it's funny how you watch the puzzle pieces of your life shift and move around because now all the stuff about theater that I learned and producing and being entertaining and telling a story, that all instead of existing in a 3-dimensional space now lives in this tiny box.
Of course.
And I'm like,
I mock you only because it's not true.
Right.
You know, I recognize, and when we talk about that on the show all the time, and I feel like, okay, so there's a couple of things I was just thinking. The first one is I keep talking to people about the differences in people who got out of the acting program while we were there and people who went through directing, because in acting they get out and they're eligible for their dream job already and we are not. And so like
Yeah.
as soon
Oof.
as they graduate, people are like, come on and be the lead on a series, or hey, Elizabeth Lail, like I know I've been graduated for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You're already talented and pretty and come do the thing on ABC.
Come on,
That
Isaac Pal.
it can happen for them in a way that, again, it can also happen. They can go to Broadway right away and then be on Broadway for like 2 years, or get a series for a year and then it goes away and then they don't work for a fucking decade. It happens all the time in mixed ways. But what we have a guarantee of, that first hit, probably not going to happen, because no one wants to hire a 22, 24, 25-year-old undergraduate directing degree student. Like they're like, oh man, 25 and right out of undergrad, would you like to do Book of Mormon on Broadway? Like, it's like it's like that they're not interested in us. And so we already know, going into the world, at least for a while, I've either got to be someone's assistant or I need to get out there and make my own stuff. I need to redefine what I expect my 20s to look like. And it's probably not going to be like, hey man, you are so great. Here's your SAG card, or here's your Directors Guild, fees paid. And it kind of gives you a weird freedom, because you don't graduate with any expectation of like, all right, well, I better start crushing it, or this was all a waste of time. And that's how so many of the actors feel. They graduate, they go to showcase, they don't get an agent, they don't get a manager, they move to New York, they audition their ass off for 4 months and they don't book anything. And they're like, so quit? Like bail on this forever because this was a total mistake and I'll just wait tables till I don't owe the government money anymore, or Joe Biden gets his act together, whatever. Like we'll just do that. It's a totally different experience. And so I feel like we have this weird blessing. And from what I hear, Wiley kind of mentioned this to me when I was talking to him. He was like, they're doing so much more of that now. He's like, I'm not close to the school, obviously, like I was, but it's my understanding that especially under Scott and the way they've shifted things more around film, there's so much more emphasis now that Gerald's program is over, that the new program is so much more about self-producing and making your own things and being more digital, and which, thank God, it was time for that to happen. Yeah. But
well, it's
I
so
love
funny.
seeing that it benefits you in this new cool way.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny when we think about, like, when I think about the Sharon Ott, who applied for the artistic director position.
And she was running SCAD, and she was trying she was trying to get what became Carl's job.
Yeah, she was trying to get Carl's job before Carl stepped in. And I remember she pitched to our class, because our class got to interview these people. She pitched this exact sort of concept. I want you all to be able to edit YouTube videos, make YouTube content, know how to work your way around a camera, know how to do. And we all, at the moment, we were like, yeah, no, this is not what. Oh, no, not at all.
I did not dig her vibe, and which is why I ultimately was kind of like, I don't know that this is right. But everything she was saying about digital stuff and getting more into shooting, I was like so excited. I was
like, please, no.
Well, I was torn too, because one of the things, and I still believe this, one of the things that I really loved about that school is, even though I grew up in modern day watching television and film way more and playing video games way fucking more than I was watching theater. Like, unless you grew up in the Northeast, you might see an occasional play, or fucking Sound of Music might get done at your high school, or you might get to, it's small potatoes. You don't get immersed in the culture and the world and the history and all that shit. Maybe you've seen a couple Shakespeare's live. That's very unusual. Most of us grew up watching fucking Nickelodeon and whatever our parents would let us watch, and Disney Channel. And like, that's what we knew. That's what we were participating in. And yet, what I loved about Gerald's program is when I stepped into it, or I should say, even before I stepped into it, and I was just admiring it from a distance from DMP, going like, well, fucking, that sounds fucking dope. What's that? It was like the oldness of it. The fact that in this 2010 or whatever it was that I was like trying to transition over. Or no, I
Mm-hmm.
guess it would have been like '08. It was like, you guys are talking about theater like it's fucking 1946. Like you guys are doing, you're talking about Tennessee Williams and Shakespeare
Mm-hmm.
and like classic
Mm-hmm.
shit. And instead of having the immediate reaction of like, this is all old school and boring, even though I wanted to make TV, I was like, there's fucking value in this. This is like the
Yeah.
reason people study Greek literature. And you're like, that was a long time ago. Yeah, but yeah, they figured some shit out. And there's
Mm-hmm.
something about classics, whether it's Tennessee Williams or Shakespeare or, Oedipus Rex, like whatever the fuck, it's still, there's something timeless about this art. And that's how Gerald taught the program. And I think that's why, even in his time of being so old school, and as Wiley put it, I think, training us all for an industry that had been dead,
Yeah.
it was like, but we still learned craft in a really crucial way that, because we weren't all trying to run a YouTube channel after class, we were focused on like this old
Mm-hmm.
fucking paper shit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
there, man, I wouldn't trade that. I wish I could have
No.
done both and like in a way, but I think concentrating fully on shit that was that old, we're talking about Jerome Robbins more than we're talking about fucking Quentin Tarantino or Mike
Yeah.
Schur, even though they were like
Mm-hmm.
the people making the things that we all got excited to go do for real. There's some kind of crazy value in that. Did you feel that way when you were there?
Well, you know me. I was the person who was pushing back on Tennessee Williams and stuff at the time, right?
Yeah,
What
I
was the
remember.
acting class? What was the acting class where I was like, no, I didn't read that play because it's boring.
Check
I,
off.
yeah, check. I was like, I
Yeah,
didn't.
it was.
No,
We were not getting you to read about two sad Russians in a room not talking about it,
not talking. Yeah, it's like there's a
which is
gun in
all
the
of
room, right?
Chekhov. Yeah,
That's all I need to know. There's a gun in the room.
you could easily do all of Chekhov as Koreans. I've found out from getting to know my new family, and it would play perfectly. It's just like them talking about something else while talking about boring shit. And it's
uh
all about reading between the lines because they refuse to have an actual, real, direct conversation. Oh my God, fascinating.
huh.
It's hard to act.
I
I'll give them
yeah,
that.
I can't. Yeah, can't do it. I I definitely respect the craft part, right? I think the what I learned was so valuable in how to do the doing than
Mm,
anything else. Because I see so many people, so many artists, friends who are in this constant state of second guessing, in this constant state of planning way too much.
yeah, dude.
Like, you just got to do it. And people will spend months planning to do a thing. And then by the time it gets time to do it, they're either over it or it's my producer brain says it's too late to do it. Right. Like, and what I learned with Gerald was just like, just do it. Just make the thing, write the thing, film the thing, put it out into the world, move on. And also move on without expectation of whether or not it's going to do well. And it's such a huge asset and mindset to have now as an adult, right? Because I think yes, we learned how to tell stories visually and narratively, vocally. Yes, we learned how to be comfortable talking in front of people, right? How to be comfortable being ourselves, how to own ourselves. There's so many moving parts of that have made it easier for me to be comfortable in front of a camera like this for so long, which I was not before. Like when I think about the film class we took, and I was like, camera. But now I'm like, whatever. I spend so many hours in front of this thing now that it just feels normal. And but it's the doing part of just sit down, stream the game, be present in the moment, and then when you are done, it's over. You rewatch it to learn what to do better and what not to do next time, but that's it, it's done. And then after that, so much content comes out around it and there's beautiful opportunity there. But also, girl, don't overthink it. Like Make the YouTube video, put it out, walk away. Don't check the numbers. Check the numbers 2 weeks later, a month later, then learn, you know? And I think Gerald's process and his method of teaching us how to operate in the world in that way was insanely valuable, because what I do, the career that I'm doing right now, content creation, if you're ever thinking about doing it or if you're just now getting into it, it is a career about throwing spaghetti against a wall for years until you figure out what the fuck works
Yep.
and what people want and don't want. You can't expect the first thing you make to be good. Like, and that's, I also just will echo leaving school and trying to do directing work as just a small throwback, because it also felt like, to me, it was the toxic environment of, well, you need a portfolio for us to give you work, but we won't give you work because you don't have a portfolio. And I was
Yep.
like, oh, all right, cool.
That's how it
Bye.
is in so much of this side of production. And they just
Mm,
don't do that to actors unless it's like the entire medium. They're like, if you've been doing theater for 15 years, you've never been on a TV show, we're going to be a little nervous about putting you on a TV show. But other
mm-hmm.
than that, they're like, oh, you've been doing sitcoms and stuff like that, but you fucking crushed this audition for this dramatic thing and you're good. They might just give you a shot. If you're not
Yeah,
famous, if you're famous for doing sitcoms, they're going to be like, I don't know, because we don't want people to misunderstand what we're making. That
right.
will fuck you. But
There's a whole PR around that, you know?
but they're not going to be like, oh, well, you played the like seventh cast member on a sitcom for like 3 years. All that tells us is you know how to come into work every day and do a thing and figure it out. Plus, we look at your audition. You fucking did great. We can really see you in the part. Here's your opportunity. Whereas if
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on a reality competition show about ballroom dancing for 6 seasons on one of the number one networks seen by millions of people, I'm actively shooting the show with a camera on my shoulder. And then I go, hey, next great baker or fucking whatever, like baking show. Can I do
Yeah.
that? And they're like, well, have you ever worked on a reality competition cooking show? And I'm like, no, but we got like 4 other people to see today. So if you could just stop wasting our time, that would be great. And I'm like,
Really?
but I, but it's you still shoot like the same thing. It's a competition where a
Yeah.
bunch of people show up and they try to do a thing and see who's the best one. And then at the end, somebody wins. And then we keep asking them as we go along, like, how are you feeling about that? And they're like, I'm really scared. And my name's Barbara. And you're like, oh, it's the same thing, right? And they're like, it's not the same thing. You have a British guy who judges them and yells at them when they're bad. We do. Yeah. Like all the shows I work on. Right. But it's a different British guy. And we really just don't think you're going to be able to figure it out. We're talking
Wow.
cha-chas and cheesecakes here, fella. It's not the same. And the fact that you think it is why you need to get out. Start over.
I'm shocked.
It's true.
Wow.
I mean, that's
One,
not verbatim. I added
it's not
cha-chas
verbatim,
and
I know.
cheesecake because I
Yeah.
wanted to spice it up, and that was good
Okay, I
alliteration.
appreciate that.
No one said that to me, but they said it with their eyes.
Uh-huh. To that I say, that's a really cute horse you walked in on. Like
It's so high.
it's so high. How did it get so high? God, that's ridiculous to me.
But it's true. They don't want to let you get started unless you've already been there. And that's why, and this is a thing I've learned just in TV, and I'm sure it's gotta fucking be the same way in theater. What you do is you get this job, and while you're on the job, you do this job even though you don't get called that or paid that, because it's
Yep.
someone around gives you the chance to do it. You're still a number 2, but they're like, could you do the number 3 shit with none of the credit or money, and then just like for a little while, is that cool? And then later they go, you know what? Normally we wouldn't hire a number 2 to do number 3, but I talked to Steven and he told me that when you were on this show, you do number 3 all the time. And so you actually do know how to do it. So we'll give you a shot, and then boom, you're in the fucking club forever at number 3. And then it goes up and up. And it is that way everywhere. And what people don't realize, and this is their big mistake, I listen to people about this all the time. They're like, we're a bunch of number 2s and they're asking us to be number 3s with no money and no title. and fucking we should unionize because this is bullshit. And you're like, yeah, but just know your worth and take the opportunity that's given you. And if they ask you to do it 4 times in a row and the fifth time you don't want to fucking do it anymore because you think it's unfair, quit and go try to get a job as a number three. Like, what the fuck
Yeah.
are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, that's
If
part of
it
it.
it's part of it. It's also for me, if you're gonna learn something new, if it's like a whole new skill or a whole new thing that you're gonna learn because you're doing number three when you're supposed to be when you're here to do number two, then like I jump at that opportunity because I'm like, yeah, teach me something, right? Is it a new experience for me? Awesome. Like, because do I want to continue to show up and be number two over and over and over again? Is that new? No, I become an expert at it in that field, but like that's not going to take me as far as it needs to go. Like, yes. Oh my God. I echo retweet. Oh my God. I literally like the number of times in my career that I've like, it's happening right now at my current work where we have at my day job, which so I do organic social. I do organic social, which is basically just run social media for the startup company that I work at now, and they have this big push. They're like, we want more video content. Oh my God, we want more video content. Holy mackerel. And I was like, okay, cool. We have an external vendor that we pay to do this, but it's an insane amount of money. And I was like, hi,
Staff me
hello.
up, bitch.
Hi, I do this already in my own time.
Right.
And they were like, oh, really? Oh my gosh. So, but I didn't ask for somebody's permission. Like, we did a webinar and I said, hey, send me that webinar with some timestamps that you want. And they were like, okay, cool. Like this, and that. And I was like, boom. Here you go. Here's 5 clips from that webinar that can be pushed out onto social media that will link back to the full webinar video, which is gated. So you can get the information that you need from
Right.
those people. And they're like, oh, nobody asked me to do it. Right. And I think like my part of that doing number 3 is also sometimes just don't ask permission to do number 3 and just do it.
Yeah,
And
that's
like,
part of it too. As long as you're
yep,
not going to step on anyone else's toes
right.
doing it.
If there's no one doing it, but you hear that there's a need for it, just start doing it.
Do it for free.
Do it for free. And now I did a big push at work around that 60-second vertical video content. I was like, y'all, we got to be doing this. We got to be doing this. It's what we need to do. And they're like,
It's a
okay,
real good idea.
it's a real good idea. So I whipped up. I worked with our HR person to do one for the interns that we had, and then we did one for our dinner at Black Barn as an event, and then we had a box at the U.S. Open. Those things that like thousands of views. The Black Barn dinner video, it in 24 hours became the 3rd most viewed video on our YouTube of all time, and everyone was like, "Oh," I was like, "Yeah, now you get it." Like, so.
Can I tell you something that I love about you that you taught me how to do?
Oh yes, please.
I figured you might enjoy hearing something like that.
Validation? What?
You and I'm going to give credit to it's like 2 people who share number 1 credit, and then there's like a sub person for the third, like for backup credit. But you and Howard Jones taught me a skill that I simply did not possess. Wasn't like, I can play the guitar, but it's just chords and I need to learn how to jam out. And that's what, no, I'm saying like, I didn't know what a guitar was. And you guys were like, all right, well, you're going to need to learn that to be in a rock band. And I'm like, okay. And what the skill was the ability to visualize in a real way what a story looks like. And I remember one day, obviously, I'm talking about Howard Jones, who taught us scenic design in our directing program through DMP. And universally, like everyone I talk to is like, he's one of the greatest people ever. So he's just an absolutely loved dude. Just wearing that usually a flowing like flannel or like a denim overshirt and glasses and a big bushy mustache and the most relaxed posture of most teachers I've had. He would just come in and a lot of this.
Yep.
A lot of,
Yep.
and so much because he was teaching, his second year scene designers and third year directors, which is an interesting
Mm-hmm.
group because you've got your second year scene designers who are just coming out of a year of fundamentals where they really didn't get to do that much. That was scene design, and now they're going to take their first scene design class, and so they're super pumped. Then you have us who are coming in with lots of ideas, thinking we know what we're talking about, but don't know how to do the thing that we're there
No,
to
yeah,
learn,
no way to do the thing at all.
which
Yeah.
is like building set models and literally designing a set for a play. And um, we were in that class at the same time that we had a conversation in Gerald's class. So we're taking that on one day, and then another day we have Gerald and
Mm-hmm.
Robert Bessida,
Mm-hmm.
and no, and Ashley Jansen,
Yeah.
third year. And you said one day we're going over a play that we were all reading, and you're like, I have this problem where I'm reading the play and I can't hear it. You're like, I can see it, and I see the little people moving around in the play, and I read the stage directions, and I'm like, they're moving around this way, and I see the set, and I can visualize it in such a literal
Mm.
way. But hearing the dialogue naturally, it's not like that. It's like when I'm reading the play, it's like ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, ba-ba-da-ba-da. It's like a list of what's happening as opposed to dialogue between two people. And you were like almost anxious because you were like, that's important, huh? Like I don't know. Like I feel like I'm broken. I feel like I don't know how to do something that's super crucial. And I
Yeah.
heard you say that, and I remember going like, dude, I have the opposite problem. I was like, I
Dude.
read every play and I'm hearing two people or three people talking, but I don't see shit. I'm not thinking like he's sitting in a chair and that guy's in a truck and this guy, but like it doesn't even occur to me. I'm
Yeah.
literally just like hearing it like a radio play. And that's how I'm taking in a play. And you're taking in a play like this visual thing where like these shapes and these colors are moving around and telling a story of this goes that way, and then they're on top of each other, and then they're over here in the bathroom, and you're like seeing it all. But to you, it's like robot language, and now I am in the
Yes.
doorway. And I
Yes.
remember being like, we have to work together. Like this
What's
is
the
so
what's the dude, where's my car? Where it's like, dude, what's
dude,
mindset?
sweet. Yeah, it was like the perfect complement of each other. And for the next 2 years, I feel like through osmosis, it's not like we sat down and we're like, how
Yeah.
do we trade skills? But just that awareness that you were dealing with the opposite problem, and it didn't make me feel
Mm.
crazy. It felt like, oh, well, he's dealing with that issue that comes naturally to me. I'm dealing with the issue of the thing that comes naturally to him.
Yeah.
And by watching, I can only speak to what I learned versus like what you got out of it. But for me, just watching you create shit and hearing you talk about it all the way from like, I read a thing last night, dude, it was cool, to watching it be with like actors in a space with lights and set. It's like going on your journey of seeing it into making it taught me, along with Howard's class, of like, well, he's like, well, where are you going to put the fucking window? And I'm like, I don't know. We should look
Great
at the
question.
play and see.
Yeah.
Fuck, I didn't think put the window question mark. Shit, I don't know. And like, so he was asking me all the literal questions of like, well, then this has to be this way. All right. They have to have an argument where he throws something up at her. It says in the script, throws it up at her. Well, she's higher then. How are you going to do that
Mm-hmm.
when the entire
Yeah.
set is flat? You didn't
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
any
Yeah. Yeah.
stairs or anything. And I'm
Well,
like,
she's on the ground, and she's gonna throw it from the ground up
yeah, and you
into
try to come up
space.
with an answer like
Yeah.
you did think of it. And then you're like, we should just have a second floor, huh? Because it doesn't say there can't be one. So I'll just fucking put, okay, all right, second
Just
floor,
second
stairs. And
floor.
like, and then watching you kind of already be ahead of those problems and be like, well, of course, he says he's got to throw it up at him. So we put stairs. And then I'm like, this
Son of a
guy
bitch.
just gets it. Like, it's crazy. But I was doing the same thing with like sarcasm and jokes, and like
Yes.
the dialogue was just, I like, oh no, this is a bit, he's making fun of her. Cause remember in act one, he said, blah, 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 blah. Line is insincere. And
I
you're
got
like,
nothing.
whew.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm always grateful about it. I still think about it anytime I'm making something. And of course, the third person then is Gerald because of our art history
Yeah.
semester of just,
Yeah.
going through the literal pop-up books of art that showed us sculpture and talked about things in a really basic art history 101 way. But he
Hmm.
would ask, he did not just shove down facts down our throat and then make us take a test of who made this piece on this date and that bullshit. He was like, so you look at this Rothko painting. And I'm like, right, it's red. And he's like, yeah, they all are. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. What do you think about it? And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
it's fucking red, man. Like, what are we talking about? Like, what? And he's like, yeah, but put words to what it makes you feel. And then like, what do you think about the fact that it's darker on the bottom than it's lighter on the top? Like he could have done it the opposite way. Why do you what do you think about that? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? What do I think? I don't
know.
What am I supposed to think? I'm thinking, I don't know. The black paint was
I
heavier. I
don't
don't like
have thoughts.
Yeah. And it's so stimulating to be asked questions like that. Dude, you'll appreciate this because this is such a radical difference. So my wife went to conservatory for classical voice and she grew up in like Christian Korean choirs, singing and running choirs and like been singing since she was a kid. And she's
Yeah,
got she can
go tell it on the mountain. Yeah.
she's got the fucking perfect pitch. She's got all that and she gets to college and they're singing like an opera and her voice teacher's like, so in the first like verse of this, like what are you feeling? And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you're playing a character in a story. And she's like, it's sad. And he's like, yeah, well, their mom just died, so yeah, it's sad. But like, what are you, Candace, what are you feeling as you sing the song? And she's like, what are you saying right now?
Yeah, what do you want from me?
I'm, I don't know. I'm hungry because I haven't eaten. Like, I don't get what you're trying to get at because she wasn't trained
Uh-huh.
as an actor. She was trained
Yeah.
as a singer. Like she was an instrument and had never
Mhm.
thought about putting emotions of her own into like acting the song. No
Yeah.
voice teacher all the way up to 18 had ever said that ever. And it was her first time having someone being like, so you might need to learn how to do this because we're trying to teach you how to be a singer and you
Yeah.
should think about what you're feeling. And she's
You
like,
gotta
I don't
yeah.
get it. It was the same thing for me. They were like, you have to, where's the stairs? And I'm like, fuck you. Like for asking me that, I don't know.
So the crazy thing is that like thank you for that. That warms my heart a lot because
I still think about it all the time. I think about the fucking plastic trash bag set you made in Sconey's room with the fucking sand on the floor. This guy thinks he can put fucking sand on the
people
floor.
Still come up to me from school that was like, you were the guy who did the thing in Sconey's room, right? I was like, really? Y'all still talk about this?
Mine's Complete Works, and I did that when I was a first year. And I was like, I did fucking How I Learned to Drive, right? It was fucking heartwarming and about pedophiles at the same time.
No,
you ever think about that?
Matter.
They're like, no, but you did the thing where the three guys are wear wigs.
Yeah, and the wigs. Yeah, yeah.
Fuck you.
That part of my brain is still very active. It's like such a, from the brainstorming visual part of it, right, to the execution of it. And I have also learned as I get older, that's also just how I read books. I really struggle with reading fiction. Like I'm trying to get through the Aragon series and I am absorbed in the story of it because I'm seeing the story. I cannot for the life of me manifest how these people sound, which is why I'm a big person who loves books to movies, even if they're bad, because it at least gives me an auditory understanding of the people.
I feel that way because of the visuals.
Right.
I want to see it. I can't fucking see it unless you put the thing in the desert. And if you don't do that, then I'm like, what am I supposed to picture the sand? What are you, crazy?
I don't know what Aragon sounds like. And it's funny that also translates to my D&D when I play D&D. If I can't find the voice of a character, I can't play that character. Like, it doesn't matter
Mm,
how rich the backstory is. If there's not an in to the one piece of the puzzle that I'm usually missing, that I know that I can't find, which is always what does it sound like,
hmm.
then it's not going to happen for me.
Do you think
Um,
you're better at it now, though? Because I'm better at visualizing than I
yeah,
was. Wait, like
yes,
monstrously. I at least can make a choice.
yes, I do think I'm better at it. I think also what I learned from you, which I gathered in time, especially after like not spending time with you and then reconnecting in the ways
Hmm.
that we have. One, my cultural brain. I always love a reference, but I think like the general pop culture awareness that you always had when we were in school uh was something that I sort of like osmosis into me, because it became very important to know what was happening and what was on trend and what was funny and why it was funny. Um, but also just talking. I was not a talker. I think like I spent a lot of time in Gerald's room and in a lot of classes in college being the person who was like, I'm going to speak when I need to speak, but otherwise I'm not. And I think that there's power in that for sure, right? Talk softly, carry a big stick, whatever it is. But as I get older, I'm now in a medium where I have to talk 4 hours at a time,
Almost constantly, yeah. You can't just
almost
be there
constantly.
quietly.
Yes, and I am also in a position at work where, because I am owning a program, I have to speak up, and speaking up is a huge part of advancing in my career, speaking up for myself when it comes to recovery and being sober and saying what I do and don't want. It's also a big part of like the people that I want involved in my community and who I don't want. Like, there's so many versions of it that I was like, it's funny when when you look at something and you don't like it, but then the more you look at it, the more you start to like it.
Sure.
Like, full transparency, I was like, man, Rob talks too much. It drives me
Yep.
crazy. Can you just like stop talking for a second? But then as I got older, I was like, that's a really fucking useful skill to have. just like, and it just sort of shifted lenses a little bit for me. And now I love talking to you because I think we both can exist on this like sort of same plane, um, in a new way.
And I've tried really
Uh,
hard to get better at listening, frankly.
mm,
My first ever, this is, I don't know how many times I've even told this story, but it's quick and it's embarrassing. And I was
I love
mortified.
embarrassing stories. Let's
Oh,
go.
dude. So the first play that I was assigned to be an AD for after second year, because I did Harper's Ferry as
Right.
a second year, but then, and waiting for the parade with Tanya. But it
Yep.
was like this weird, you're a second year thing. So my first like proper directing intern gig was for Rob Ruggiero on Streetcar Named Desire with
Yes.
Maddie Landers and Christian Daly and
What a queen.
this
What a queen
asshole.
Rob Ruggiero was.
Yeah, but who's that guy in the cast? Such a dick. Jonathan Majors. He yeah, no. He's the man. I only say it because it's ironically not true.
MCU star Jonathan Majors.
He's one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. Even if while we were at school, not everybody got him. I fucking love working with him, and I liked working with Rob. And Rob did not like get along at all with his AD, his fourth year assistant Ben Carbo. They didn't
Oh
click.
yeah.
They it wasn't like a good fit, and we had this wave where, for some reason or another, I think the first time Rob had to go, he was on campus for the first day. He had to go to some design meeting, and I think Ben couldn't make it. He came to the second
Mm-hmm.
one, but maybe he wasn't like in town yet from whatever job he had over the summer. I can't remember. But
Mm-hmm.
I got to go by myself, and in my head, I was like, I'm gonna get the only attention I'm gonna get all semester with this guy. And
This is it.
Ben's then gonna come into town, and he's gonna be the guy, and I'm just gonna shut the fuck up and take notes because that's my job.
Yep.
And so I'm going to use this day to try to make a connection with him so that we will get along, and he won't just forget the quiet kid who took notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I go to the meeting. I don't say shit, of course, in the meeting. But then we're leaving, and he asked me a couple questions, and I answered them how I do, not shortly. And at one point, he's like smiling at me and letting me go on and on. And I really did take the questions for what seemed like that kind of, and he's not like this at all if you know him, but I misunderstood it as almost like a Mary Irwin, Ashley Jansen, like forum for you to tell me who you are.
Yes.
It felt
Yep.
that way. I just took
This
the
is
questions that way. So I ran with it. And after like two questions, we'd been walking for a while and I was talking, and he was like smiling at me the whole time and kind of letting me go. And then I kind of stopped and I like, gave, now you kind of moment, that pause. And he goes, "You talk too much." And I was like, no.
He hates me.
He hates me. He's pointed out the one thing I'm insecure about more than anything else. Like, this has been really fun.
Rob melts on the pavement. Like,
I'm glad this was a fun way to spend my last day on Earth, because I'm done with this now. And I was absolutely mortified.
You do the like Winnie the Pooh ascension of just like out of your body, just like.
It was like the guys in Who Framed Roger Rabbit where they fall down and the ghost just like peels off of them and shoots into the sky. That was me. Or maybe even, yeah, it was an out of body moment because I felt like it was just a shot to the heart. And I took the note. I didn't fucking talk to that guy for months. I just took my notes, and I was having a really bad time with my ADD at the time. I ended up going back on Adderall that semester because I was like, I'm in rehearsals for fucking Tennessee Williams and we're doing the same 8 pages over and over again. And I love that play. Like, for the record, I fucking love Streetcars so much. When you watch it top to bottom, it is brilliant. Working on the same fucking shit over and over again of, oh man, sure is hot today. Good Lord. How was that? Like, oh my God. I was falling asleep. I was trying really hard not to play like games on my iPod. I think at the time was what I was doing. I was just like, oh my God, this is going to kill me. I'm sitting in these rehearsals every night and I'm like falling asleep. And now he's going to hate me because he's going to catch me fucking falling asleep. Meanwhile, this guy's over here like, say it again. Like, he's on the edge of his seat for every scene and is like trying to be Blanche Dubois while he's directing. And I'm like, this is his dream to be working at a conservatory with great actors who are hungry to do Tennessee Williams. He's fucking directing Kang the Conqueror, goddammit, and doesn't even know it.
He is directing Kang the Conqueror and he doesn't even know it.
And
I was like, when pure tangent. When Jonathan Majors walked in that scene, I literally went, son of a bitch, I got yogurt with this guy way back. Do that, like, like.
Yeah. It was such a crazy fucking thing. And then the wildest turn of events is he later just almost broke up with Ben by the time we got to cast like tech rehearsals and we got into the actual it was in the round in the, what's it called? It's called the Gerald Friedman now. What the fuck do we call it? The Thrust.
The Thrust.
So we're in the Thrust main stage. As soon as we like transitioned over there to working on the set, he basically I think he assigned Ben to work with the designers and the crew to like make sure if there were any notes to take them and bring them to him. He would sit in the light booth and different stuff. But he was basically like, I don't want you to sit next to me fucking taking notes. I just like, they didn't click with each other. And so he's like, Rob, do you want to come take notes for me in the space? And I was like, directly? I've been on book for fucking 3 months, just staring at the play. And we ended up having a great relationship. And he almost tried to hire me a couple times, but man, it was a lesson. It was the perfect directing program lesson of like, I appreciate your enthusiasm. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You have nothing to contribute. I know how to do Streetcar Man. You're fucking like 23 years old. And I'm like obsessed with this material. I'm gay, so I'm going to do Tennessee Williams way better than any, partially bisexual, whatever the fuck you're doing. And I was like, Okay, I'll shut
Got
up.
it.
I'll shut up
Okay,
now. And then I
but
went from that to John Lang's.
what a pivot,
Yeah.
John Lang. Oh my god.
Who's banging on me and Sameep, who are both taking notes. He's like hitting us in the fucking notepads, like, faster. You both have to write faster. I don't know how we're gonna do this.
You need to write faster, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Write it down.
oh my god, write it down.
You also write everything down. You still do that?
What? Yeah, I do. I have a journal that like. I always have a journal on me. That's just a constant, ongoing. Because what I've learned, actually, this is a little bit new of a topic for me. That I've been navigating with my therapist. I'm learning as I get older, and also as I exist in a more digital and more social media space. My brain is starting to, if I don't write it down, it's gone. It's like, it's gone, right? And it's like, ha, hoo, ha. There's like, things are flying so fast. I think that's a situation of our age, our digital age, right? And so I really started to lean into my journal a lot more. As soon as an idea comes to me, I'm like, just whatever,
That's
And it's
crazy that you say that's more intense, because I remember you being like that then, like 10 years ago. I was like, this
well,
motherfucker writes down everything.
well, that's the thing. I used to write down everything. That's funny that you say that, because like maybe I'm just like becoming more hyper aware of it, and I think that it's a new concept when it's like a concept that's just been a part of me. But
I was so jealous of it because I just don't have the attention span for it. My brain doesn't work that way. I've tried to do it. I do it a little bit more. Like I wrote down a note for myself for this episode just because I want to go back and look at a thing. I'm terrible about that. And I've had jobs taking notes for other people for a decade's worth of like time accumulatively, but I've never brought it into my personal life. And I was always jealous. I was like, this motherfucker gets to look back on his shit.
Yeah. Well, that's also, there's a level of nostalgia going through a journal when I'm done, but it's also like sometimes the solution for a thing just pops into my head walking down the street. And I'm just like, oh, like I was trying to solve how to do a scene transition on my OBS for the Twitch channel. And I was like, I can't fucking figure this out. What do I do? And then I was walking down the street and I was like, duh, it's that. That just like fell out of the sky and into my brain.
Right.
And if I don't write it down, I'm going to get on the train and get to work and then go, what was that thing? I solved it. What was the thing? It's gone,
Right.
But I also now, the pivot to marketing was hard for me, but I found that the solution was writing everything down. Because in marketing and in content creation, there's multiple planes flying at the same time.
Right.
Like, it's not what goes out on social media for a company that large has to be tactful. It has to be planned and coordinated and executed months in advance. I usually am planning social 2 to 3 months in advance. And as I'm starting to like create more video content and ramp up on YouTube and figuring out how do I leverage this Twitch streaming into TikTok content, YouTube content, Instagram stories, I have to map all that out and give that to like my video editor to be like, we're editing, and this is what you're editing in this order. I need you to do this first and then that, because we're going to release them in this order for a specific reason. Like, I have this whiteboard wall here has literally like, all right, we're going to do this 60-second vertical, and then we're going to do that. And then the YouTube video is going to drop here in the middle of the month because I need to do that.
That's why editors in film and television don't work in the bay by themselves all day. A lot of people think they do. Yeah, because you think like, a director makes an editor or makes a film on location. He shoots it on now cards. Those cards go into a big server. Then they pull that into an editing program, and the director goes off to do something else. And the editor's like, all right, I'll have a movie for you in a few months. It's like, no, the editor is the person who is carving the wood, but that doesn't mean they're also the person who made the design.
Right.
You know, the editor is the TD, but they still need a scenic designer. And there are people who do both jobs. But
Mm-hmm.
man, no, like producers sit in, especially in reality TV, which is what I've had the most experience with. You don't, not all day are you sitting side by side, but the editor doesn't just, unless they're filling a formula, you know, like let's say you're
Yeah.
talking about,
A car commercial.
yeah, yeah. And it seems to be like the same thing. You have it's 25,000 shots of the Chevy pulling up on the hill,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody, the director or someone, a producer has to tell them like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to tell it narratively. So like have it get up the mountain by the end of the video. And
Right.
it needs to be about 60 seconds. And honestly, don't have him reach the mountaintop until like right before it's over. And then that's the big
Yeah.
finale, and then we're good. Or have him reach the mountaintop at first and then do all the spinning round shots where we can be like, it has this feature, that feature, whatever. Like it depends on the kind of commercial they want to make. Someone has to give them that direction. If they're doing like America's Got Talent and they're doing the what we call like the intro OTF or on the fly interview, where the guy is like about to go on stage and they're standing backstage and they're taking up the
Oh,
1/3 of
yeah.
the screen.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, what's going on? My name is Rob. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I'm a juggler. It's like that gets cut the same fucking way in every single pod of every single episode. So once you find the footage and you pair it with the audio, you know the graphic goes over here, you know what you write at the top, you what you write at the bottom, you take the whole thing, you cut out all the parts where the producer was like, tell us where you're from. And they're like, okay, hey, what's up? My name's Rob. I'm from, and then you like pair it out, cut out all the fat, and then you show it to a producer who goes, take the third take of him saying his name and where he's from. And then the producer had him tell the story of how he got into juggling like 4 times. The third one is the best one, except the last line of the first one was fucking great. So put that at the end, put that together, and then I'll see you in a fucking after lunch. Because that's going to take time.
Yeah.
And then they go in and they go, okay, I'll cut it that way. Then they run it by the fucking producer again, who's like, the way it popped in was good on that one shot, but can you not go quite so close? Like it just looks weird. Can we get more headroom on that? Gives them notes. They do another pass. And that's how like every fucking TV show is made all the way through. It has to go back and forth between that person. To get back to what you're talking about, you being the content creator, you can have an editor, but they need direction.
Yeah.
They need to be told.
I am producer, director, writer, because I'm actually executing the content and then pushing it to. Do you know who my editor is? BT Dubs, by the way?
No.
Fucking Michael Johnson. I love Michael Johnson
so
much. we had a great reconnect at Leah Cadigan's wedding. Where he is also 2 years sober. Our sobriety dates are like 2 weeks apart from each other. And I was like, what are you doing? He was like, well, me and my girlfriend stream on Twitch. I was like, get the fuck out. And he's like, yeah, and I just quit my catering job to do video editing full time, but I don't have any clients yet. And I went, get the fuck out. You know, like, and we totally like just connected, and he's great. I push him content. I give him like here's the gist. I do the pre-editing for him because a stream is 3 to 4. Just for context of how this works, right? A stream is 3 to 4 to 6 hours. I go through, I rewatch it, and I say, "This is garbage. That's garbage. This is funny. Keep that." Condense that down to like a 30 to 45-minute video. That's still too long for a rough cut, right? It's still too long for YouTube, though. So I hand that to Michael, and Michael goes through and he adds. He's learning my aesthetic as he edits, which I think is a really cool process for me to watch unfold, is to watch somebody learn your aesthetic and also tell you what your aesthetic might be that you might not know about yet. So he adds the jokes, he adds the emotes. He's very comfortable and familiar with YouTube comedy, light crank gameplays like Markiplier. So, and then he sends me the cut. He's like, here's the first draft. What do you think? I'll rewatch it. I send him notes. I'm like, I love this joke. We can do this here. That joke doesn't really land for me, or it could land if you make it shorter. Like whatever, all that stuff. Yeah. And then I send the notes back to him. He makes the second edit, and like that's usually our back and forth. But when you say it like that, it's like, yeah, I'm having to, it's in content creation as the solo person, if you don't have an editor, which I didn't have an editor before, and that took so much, editing takes so much fucking time.
I do all my own
Um,
podcasts myself.
yeah. How long does it take you? What's a ballpark?
It really depends on the show. Like right now, I'm producing 3 different podcasts that I also edit. And so for this one, At the Elephants is going to air. I mean, the audio has always been the heart of At the Elephants, which is why I make sure that people have good mics and stuff like that as best as
Yeah.
possible, because for years there was no video to it. And I
Yeah.
also for years didn't do it remotely because I wanted it to be really authentic and feel like live. And then I finally was like, man, I don't want to fucking not make it. Like
Yeah.
I want to make it and people are far away and that's what it is. And so now this one is going to be me basically taking these R2 images that people are watching right now and putting them in the editor and stacking them on top of each other vertically so that it airs as a vertical video on YouTube everywhere it lives. It's just a vertical show. Because it's remote, who gives a shit? It doesn't feel weird to see us in 2 separate boxes
No.
like it would if we were in person and then I put them like that, which I may do occasionally. But mostly this show's going to live like we're watching it right now, like one, like a Zoom call right on top of each other. But I'll just clean up like the framing and stuff like that and make it kind of match. That'll probably take me like with importing and exporting it an hour and a half, maybe. Like it'll be simple because I'm not going to cut shit. This is a long show. It's always been a long show.
Buckle up.
I don't cut it out. At the Elephants is as long as the conversation is, and unless someone comes back later and is like, I really didn't like the fact that that came up, and could we take that section out? It's not the show it was when I started, when I was making like This American Life version and putting in music and score and stuff. It's really evolved past that because of time. But then We Are New, which is the one I do with my wife.
Yes.
That's a 3 camera setup, a 4 camera setup.
Yeah, that's a nice setup. I watched that shit and I'm like, this is not, I don't even have like 2 cameras. Like that's lit.
We've got 3 cameras on us. And then Kyle, our producer, has his own angle.
That's great.
So the final edit is a 4-cam multicam switch, which then I've got to, dude, it's like a TV show that I make by myself. It really is, because I take all 4 videos, I color correct them, I pair them to that microphone audio, export all of those as workable files, make a multicam sequence out of that. Then I have to watch down the show and pick the cameras, like the shot by shot, second by second in real time. That probably takes like for an hour and a half show, which it can be. That probably takes like 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours to like get that done. And I try to make use of the time by like, that's when I'll make my notes about there's a reel, there's a piece of like funny content. But then even that, I make ads for that show, like fake ads. Yeah. That's part of the bit. I have to shoot those. I have to edit I make all my logos for the fake companies.
Yes.
Panamanian anal beads. Yeah. I have to go find an anal bead silhouette and then find Panama and put them together and write the title.
Rob's Google history.
It's a lot of creative a lot of creative stuff at play with making that show. I haven't done it as much and I wish I had more time because I would do more of it. We did a game at one point called Smash or Pass, where you like, it's like almost like Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Yes, I love
Kyle brings us the game. So when we play a game or do like a quiz on the show, he's like, I brought you this and this is what we're going to do. That's like what part of his job. So he brought Smash or Pass. And I was like, what the fuck is that? He goes, we spin a wheel from like a TV show. It picks character and you're like, would you smash it or do you pass it? And I was like, okay. And he picks Harry Potter, which he thought would be funny because I know it, and Candace does not know Harry Potter at all, like 0.
Oh, nice. So she's just on the image of the person
just
alone?
On who we're looking at. She's like, smash it, which is kind of funny when you're like, you don't really know what that guy's like. But here's what got weird really fast. They're all children.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Kyle, this is weird. He's like, it's not literal. You're not supposed to be thinking about having sex with them. It's just like smash or pass. And
It's literally smash or
I was like,
pass.
yeah, but smash as fuck. What are you talking about? I'll have to send you that segment because it's really funny.
What
But
version did he bring you? Were there still like 12? Like, is this like literal
they
Sorcerer's
don't
Stone?
all look old. Yeah, it's like some of their image. Well, even so, dude, the oldest characters is supposed to be like 17 years old. Like I'm
Yeah.
in my 30s, and I'm like, and not only that, because of my work in Hollywood, Candace and I have both met some of these people. And so we're like, I mean, Felton now saw him not long ago. Sure. This picture, I'm not at agree to fuck this 14-year-old like albino kid. What are you talking about? And so when I cut the episode, I was like, I'm gonna make a song. And so I wrote a song and like recorded me singing like smash a pass, and like an intro thing with a graphic. And then I ended it with I made a rhyme out of it. Was like, if this segment is not your style, you can blame it on Kyle. Like it was like throwing
Nice.
him fully under the bus. And then that's like at the end I whisper, I'm like, Kyle made us do this. So it's like I want to just hold my hands up and be like, the thing you're about to watch that gets weird, I didn't fucking do that.
Not my thing. No,
and I put his like Instagram, like DM him if you have a problem, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about it.
Oh my God.
And I wish I had more time to do that. If the show took less time to make overall, I would, if I had an editor doing a lot of that work for me, I would be putting my energy into making like extra stupid shit like that. And then I have a new podcast that I'm producing for some people that I've worked with on a TV. I have to be very careful about how I word this because of like contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
Some people that I have worked with on another show came to me and were like, we want to do a podcast. We know you know how to do that. Will you help us make it? And so they're going to be putting out their show under my channel. Like We Are New as a studio, as opposed to just like We Are New the show.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, and I'm looking to grow that over time and add a bunch of new things to it. I'm actually going to be putting people will be watching this. If you're watching the full length episode and not just a segment, you're watching.
Good for you for making it this far.
We Are New Studios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats.
God bless. Why?
Yeah, you really,
dude. People listen to this show and they listen to the whole fucking thing, and it blows my mind. I mean, we'll see what happens with the relaunch.
Yeah, you know, one of my favorite things that people YouTubers do, which is that like write the word pretzels in the comments if you got this far, you know, and then you see how many people actually put like the word pretzel in the comments. That's a great idea. Yeah, just to like see how far people get through the listening of it.
Well, folks, if you're still watching, pretzel it up.
Pretzels,
right? Pretzel down there. Yeah. Get creative. Tell me your favorite kind of pretzel. What are they dipped in? Are they dry like you?
Chocolate covered.
Yeah, you gotta
hold on a second. I'm gonna as we wrap it up for a second, I'm gonna give you a little surprise here. Alexa,
please
turn on stream lights.
What?
There you go. There you go.
This is amazing. Now the party's going.
And then we do that.
Dude.
There you go.
I feel like I got to this party late.
Vibe. This is the full like vibe.
I feel like we were hanging out in the club at like 7:00. And now it just hit 9 and people are going to start showing up. And I'm like, I got to take off. This was fun.
This is my work was going to throw away these giant Lego blocks. And I was like, oh no. So I took them, I threw them all into an Uber and filled the clear ones with fairy lights and like sort of built this stream.
Dude,
this stream background.
Awesome.
You can, if you watch my YouTube videos, you can see the background grow over time. It used to just be the dresser and what was on top of the dresser and like a little bit over here. And then it's just like grown and grown and grown. But
tell everybody where they can find the magic on the YT and the TWITCH.
Yeah. So you can find me on YouTube and Twitch under Kopp. So it's K0PP, K0PP. I'll send you, I have a media kit link, Rob, you can put into the stuff. That's got my Twitch, my YouTube, my Twitter, my Instagram. But yeah, I stream on Twitch 3 times a week. And then I release a YouTube video roughly twice a month right now with a bunch of vertical content. So I bill myself as your friendly neighborhood sober streamer. So if that's up your
Yes.
alley and you like sassy content, come check it out.
I love that, dude. Thank you for talking to me. And this is your second time on the show. You did like episode 2.
I did. OG. OG.
And I really appreciate you talking to me, dude. This was super fun. It
Thank you
went
for having
long, but it's because
me.
I had a fucking
I don't
blast.
care. Yeah, that's sweet. This is like this is hanging out on a porch in North Carolina. That's what this is. You know, can
Mm.
go on forever.
At the goddamn elephants, baby.
Yes.
All right. I
All
love
right.
you, buddy.
I love you, buddy. Bye. Mwah.